So my clear takeaway here is, if we can shrink our national waistlines, we can shrink the size of the government. So how do we do that? Let's start with food stamps. There's a news hook for you. Over the government shutdown, we saw a lot of content creators, I believe they called it EBT talk, documenting their planned grocery store heists, how they were going to steal grocery store items. But what they ended up revealing through their ASMR videos on their ring light camera with really nice iPhones is that they were consuming a lot of junk food, a lot of garbage. What's making Americans fat is food and drinks packed with sugar, carbs, and high fructose corn syrup. And through our Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP, Americans are incentivized to buy more garbage. Roughly 25% of SNAP dollars go to candy and soda. Roughly 25%. SNAP cost $63 billion in 2019. That jumped to $145 billion in 2023. There's 42 million Americans on that program. That's 12% of the population.
I will agree that there are too many American people that are on SNAP benefits. But that means that you got to not look necessarily at SNAP. You got to look at the reasons that they're on SNAP. We know that over 1/4 of these people that are in receipt of SNAP benefits are actually the working poor in this country, right? We have not increased the minimum wage, and I don't know when, and the minimum wage still sits at $7 while everything else is going up, whether we're talking about the cost of food or whether we're talking about the cost of rent or whether we're talking about the cost to actually try to engage in home ownership, if we're talking about the interest rates. And we know that under the failed leadership of this administration, this country has seen a loss of 1 million jobs, and that's just in the first few months. He's not even had a full year. So no, we need to work on economic policies that will put people into a position in which they are not the working poor, where they are still needing the $6 a day to eat. So yes, we need to talk about it, but I don't think that SNAP is the problem. I think that that is the resolution, or at least that is a symptom of the problem. We have a bigger problem in which we have billionaires that are continuing to rise up every single day and are getting richer and richer, to the extent that there was talk about Elon becoming a trillionaire, the first one in this country or in the world. Yet we still have people that have to go to the food bank and go to work, that have to sit there and go to make sure that they've got money on their SNAP and EBT cards. Like, that's a problem, and I do think that we need to address it.
I mean, this is a program that has exploded over the last 20 years, and we are just dumping $100 billion a year into a program that we all know is being so woefully corrupted and exploited. And people are selling their benefits. People are using them to get their nails done, to get their weaves in their hair. I mean, this is a really ugly program. It's weird to me to hear Josh Hawley screaming that we have to protect this, and that we're not talking about why is it so ridiculously expensive and exploited, and what can we do to make it better?
I just provided my colleagues another one of my charts yesterday that showed from the inception in the 70s until President Obama, we would fluctuate somewhere between 6 and 10% of Americans on food stamps, right? Then Obama came in, dramatically increased flux of eligibility. Now it's between 10 and 15%. Right now you have 42 million Americans, 12.3% of our population on food stamps. That is not a metric of success. It's a metric of failure. And no, I mean, that program needs to be dramatically reformed. We are making way too many Americans dependent on government. That's what Obamacare did with the Medicaid expansion, which is really pushing out disabled children from care because of, people, because they get paid more, would prefer providing medical services to single, able-bodied, working-age childless adults. I mean, it's sick. I mean, the damage Democrats do with their supposedly well-intentioned programs, but completely poorly designed programs, is incalculable.
Yeah, I don't think they're even well-intentioned. I think it's all just a game to get as many people on them as you can, because then you've got a very reliant base of voters. If they need that program, if they need that money, they're always going to vote for you. So it's just a game of how many can we get on there, and that's why the moment you start talking about doing it responsibly, they freak out, because that's going to be cutting people off of it. I mean, that's the worst thing for their product.
I can't argue with, the Democrats are all about growing government, which means making more Americans dependent on government. Yep. That's not the way to improve
Yeah.
our society and really improve those people's lives.
You know, one of the biggest beneficiaries of SNAP is Walmart. About 25% of all SNAP funds go to Walmart through people buying their food on their EBT card. On top of that, a significant amount of Walmart's employees qualify for SNAP. So our tax dollars are also funding Walmart's employees because they aren't paying them a livable wage. So roughly $25 billion a year goes directly to Walmart from our SNAP benefits that we pay into every year.
A couple of weeks ago, I went on my 15th annual farm tour across 12 farms in central and western Massachusetts. Over and over again, I heard from farmers about how they're bracing for these drastic SNAP cuts. Why? Because you can only buy food with SNAP benefits. And who grows that food? Our farmers, like my constituents. They're already seeing the abrupt cancellation of USDA programs that support the purchase of fresh local produce for schools and food banks. Not only did these cancellations reduce the amount of healthy fruits and veggies going to people in need, it took income away from our farmers. The very real and impending SNAP cuts are just another economic hit to our farmers. Madam Speaker, we're not operating in anything resembling business as usual right now. Republicans have ripped apart the long-standing Farm Bill coalition between nutrition and farming interests. The big ugly bill decimated modest yet meaningful SNAP benefits, all to give more tax breaks to the ultra-wealthy and well-connected. Madam Speaker, you either want to end hunger or you don't. And Trump and his Republican cronies in Congress have clearly chosen to make hunger worse. We cannot stand idly by while hunger is made worse in this country, the richest country in the world. And again, what is particularly galling is that Republicans champion tax cuts for multimillionaires and billionaires while decimating an essential program to help put food on the table. What is wrong with these people, Madam Speaker? We do not share the same values. So no new farm bill without fixing the big, ugly bill's cuts to SNAP. We can and we should do more, a hell of a lot more, to end hunger now.
So we all know the Republicans have always been obsessed with the idea of people getting something for nothing, unless of course it's them and their billionaire buddies and the people in the elitist conservative white class, because of course those are the ones who are entitled to the best. They're entitled and they deserve the cream of the crop and the creme de la creme. You know, these people will sit up in a crowd and talk down about those who are struggling. You know, like, oh, well, this much of SNAP goes to soda and candy. So instead of maybe fixing that, maybe we can make it a bit more healthy. Let's just get rid of the whole thing. You know, because you know it's those welfare queens, it's those black and those brown people. But in reality, the majority of people who are on SNAP benefits are white, because the majority of people in America still to this day are white. And a lot of them, most of them, are in rural Republican areas. So they get up and they talk about this in front of their constituency, and it sells to them because, of course, they're the ones who are deserving of those benefits. And unfortunately, we have to have people like Donald Trump in office in order for people to see that they're getting played and that they're just getting strung along because they're robbing you blind. So, you know, at the end of the day, we all know this is nonsense, but I love when they go up there and they do that. What about all the breaks that people like Jeff Bezos gets? What about all the privileges that people like, Elon Musk, right? One man spent $300 million to get Trump over the finish line, goes into office, illegally cuts programs, illegally fires people. And then, of course, he ends the federal investigations into his own criminality. How is that fair? How is that right? How is that just? How does that make any sense? It doesn't. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I love poking fun at it. Unfortunately, it causes a lot of damage, but I think we have a lot of ammunition on our side going into the midterms and into the 2028 presidential election.